Hi, everyone. So, this video marks a new style of video that I'm going to start incorporating into my channel, and that is sort of recorded live office hours with Jess. As many of you know, and some of you probably watching this video have done this, I'm very open to having any of my, followers, subscribers, students, friends reach out to me um, to chat. If you find me via this channel, you can contact me at officehourswithjess@gmail.com. That email address is listed elsewhere as well. But I really welcome people just cold reaching out to me. I talk about how much I love cold emailing, so please cold email me. And I generally schedule Zoom calls with people that reach out to me just to get to know the people who are watching my channel and have sort of more one on one advice and just talk time with people. And one day I was like, oh, yeah, these videos might actually be useful to record and share because these questions that people are asking are probably the same questions that other people are also curious about. So, this is the start of a new series that I will be, as obviously with the consent of the other person to varying levels, I will record conversations that I have with other people who are asking questions, etc., and making that information available to you all as well. So here's my first live office hours video recording that I would like to share with you all.
All right.
Okay. Well,
Okay.
thank
Yeah.
you so much for reaching out and finding my YouTube channel. And I know we've been emailing back and forth, and you have sort of a
Yeah.
big decision to make. So
Yeah.
yeah, tell me about what's going on, and I can try and help you give some
Yeah.
advice. Yeah.
So I'm having this dilemma of like because right now I'm doing my honors and I have to choose my PhD in the future, and I'm
Mm.
wondering if where do I choose it and all that. And currently I'm having this like offer in my lab by a postdoc, which is someone who I really respect and I think it's really good. And the project is also nice as well. It's working on flavivirus, and that was when I was offered after looking around like the world for the different universities. And one of the one that caught my attention is in Harvard, Harvard TH Chan, because one of the prof there is working specifically on coronaviruses, and I'm actually very interested in coronaviruses like influenza, flu, and these like respiratory diseases because of their impact. So I've searched around the world, even like some from Hong Kong and some from other parts of like Melbourne and all that. But then she's the one that specializes like in coronaviruses, like, and she's making like the vaccines and all that for the vaccine production. She's involved in the Moderna. So like I read up her and I also read out her profile and I search her interviews in YouTube and all that. And I feel like her character and the way she does her things and all that, her work, her paper, it's what interests me. So I actually reached out to her through email, and then she's actually on, I think, maternity leave at the time when I wrote to her, like it was a few
Mm.
months back, and she said like to contact her in September. So I mean it's haven't September yet, so I just want to wait a few more weeks, then I contact her because I don't want to
Yeah.
disturb her maternity leave. Yeah. So then I plan to like during that email ask her like what projects is her lab available, so then I can decide properly whether if to choose, um the PhD offer that my lab has offered me, or whether if I would choose, or maybe like try and apply for TH
Yeah.
China and write to, yeah. So that's a
Okay.
dilemma. So
Yeah. So you have the two choices. You either stay in your current lab where they're offering you a spot in their PhD
yeah,
program, or do you figure out what's going to happen if you apply for the Harvard program? So I think you mentioned that
yeah.
there's a deadline for you to decide. Is there a deadline that you need to let your current program know about?
So there's no like hard and fast deadline, but like as with all PhD program, there's always a lot of people who like wants to and all that. So not really official deadline, but it's good to let them know as soon as possible so that they also know that there's like other slots, like they can
Yeah.
give to other students and not just reserve for their own lab people. So that's
Yeah.
one dilemma, because if I were to choose, um so like if I go with this with my current lab, um I kind of like coronaviruses and all that, so I'm not sure if I can jump into that field in the future. However, if I reject this lab currently, then if I were to, try and apply for Harvard, and then if let's say I get rejected, then it's all gone. So yeah,
I know. So yeah, that's
yeah,
the tricky thing is the timeline because you have this, they offer you the spot now and they're sort of giving you a little bit of pressure, like, okay, do you
yeah,
take the spot or
yeah,
not? And they can
yeah,
only hold it for so long, it seems. And just so
yeah,
you know, like a kind of trajectory of the timeline is that applications for PhD programs, for the most part in the US, are all due around December 1st. And then
yeah.
you probably won't hear back from Harvard or other schools until like, I think Harvard notifies people as early as possible about interviews.
January, right?
Yeah, and
Or
that's like the
February, yeah,
first week of January. So,
yeah,
and that's just the interview. And then I think by
yeah,
the first week of February, like you will know if you were accepted. Um, but then that leaves people kind of like if but that's for the people who are like on the track of interview, accepted, all that. You get to know all that
yeah,
quickly.
yeah,
Um, so I is there any chance that your current program will let you wait until February
I
to make a
I
decision?
don't I I don't think so, because like now to February is like 6 months, and she would and the project starts in next year July. So I'll need
Oh,
to apply it. Yeah, so there's this deadline even from the school, like we have to apply by I think December or January, something like that. So it's
yeah.
quite tight, and I don't think, yeah, it's not possible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you still
Unless
have to apply or do you already have the offer? How,
I just need to like say yes and just go with it. Yeah. So
oh,
it's
okay. So
handed there,
you're
but
already
yeah,
in.
I just
There's
need to,
nothing you have to
yeah,
do.
yeah. So it's, yeah, so
Oh,
yeah.
okay. Yeah, this
Yeah.
is tricky.
Yeah.
Can you defer a year? Is that possible? Like, can you tell them that you don't want to start in fall of
Yeah.
2024, but you might want to do fall of like 2025, I
No,
guess.
yeah.
Yeah.
So the thing is, this lab itself only have like one more, like this the last project for this lab,
Yeah.
because the rest is already like filled up with others.
Yeah.
So if I were to wait 1 year later or the next year, then they won't have any more,
Yeah.
yeah, projects.
No, I get it. PhD programs, well, first of all, I already said this in an email, but I want to say it again. Like, it is a
Yeah,
huge deal that you already have this offer from your
yeah,
current program. Like, congratulations. That's wonderful. Not a lot of people get to be in your situation where you have like, when I talk to a lot of students, I always tell people you must have like, safe. You can't only apply to like Ivy League schools. You have to have schools that, um, that are, I wouldn't call them safety schools, but just schools that aren't as highly ranked because you really want to increase your chances of getting into any program, not just
yeah,
the best programs. So I always encourage people to like apply to safety schools. And your safety school in this situation is an already acceptance to an amazing program that you're currently already working in. So it's not like something random. So it's a very
mm,
good sort of like backup or plan B option. But the unfortunate thing is the timing is that
timeline.
not
Yeah,
like you got this, like let's say we were having this conversation in January, it'd be very different, right? But it's not
yeah,
even, the start of school year yet. And like the timing is tricky. So
yeah,
I mentioned this in my email to you, and I guess we can kind of have a conversation about it now.
yeah,
It's tough. And just to let you know a little bit about, PhD applications here in the US, they're very competitive, like no
yeah,
matter what. And my mentor, when I was applying to PhD programs, she even said to me, she was like, you have to sort of be mentally prepared to not get in anywhere. She's like, I think the world of you're like one of the best students I've ever worked with. And I'm still telling you this because you just never know. Like sometimes some of the best applicants don't get in anywhere that they apply to. One, because they don't think critically about which schools they're applying to. So they only apply to like 5 Ivy League schools and get rejected from all those. I have
yeah,
stories of that with friends, you're not doing that, which is good. But, your eye is set on Harvard, which is
yeah,
not like the easiest program to get into. I don't know if you'd be applying to the population health sciences program, which is my program that I completed, but I know that they get anywhere between 5 and 600 applicants every year, and they can
Wow,
only
that's
take 40-ish. So the acceptance rate is very, very low. And it's
yeah,
not because they're trying to, it's just there's only a certain number
yeah,
of spots, and it's like a numbers game at the end. So I always tell people you could be the most qualified. I've seen with my own eyes the most qualified candidates get rejected from the School of Public Health at Harvard, and it really frustrates me. And there's nothing you can do because it's almost like part of it. It's like I think part your resume, CV, like all your accomplishments, all that, and also just part luck. And that's why it does feel like we're kind of like gambling, you know. If you
yeah,
move forward and let's say, you want to take that gamble and like
yeah,
turn down this position, it truly is like very, very high risk and
yeah. It's
reward. And
oh,
I'm a very risk averse person, and in all aspects of my life. And this does come across when I give advice to people. Like I
yeah,
always push people and I always encourage people to aim high.
mm,
I always, because like you never know what can happen. Like I
yeah,
applied to Harvard not thinking I would get in, and then I got in. So like you never know what can happen, but you need to be able to have something to fall back onto in case that doesn't happen. So my recommendation would be like if you do choose to go down the let's gamble with Harvard route and turn down your current offer, like do you have a plan to like apply broadly to other schools so that way I just don't want you to like get to next April and like have no program to go to and you turn down this wonderful offer at your current place. So what's your kind of plan in terms of like if you were to turn this down now and then go for Harvard slash maybe other schools? Do you have other schools in mind? Like, what's your plan for that?
so I have like let's say if I turn down and then I can't accept this already because it's over and I'll just apply into different universities and just see whether if which is um available, or which interests me. Just a few like different universities, but like I think it's quite hard because not really sure whether if those will there's like probably eight of them in my mind, but I'm not sure if those will, accept. There's a chance that all of them won't accept or like they don't not taking in students. So I would say the backup is not really that good. Yeah.
Yeah, you're saying like you recognize that it is taking a
Yeah,
chance,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
yeah,
Can I ask, like how many publications, what's your CV and your background? Like, do you feel like you
yeah,
have like really strong, um, research, experience to really back up
yeah.
your application? Because that will also help. Yeah.
Yeah, so I would say my very first research experience was working as an internship for 6 months in Singapore. So it was under Cardiovascular Research Institute.
Yeah.
So I worked 6 months under doing different techniques, and then afterwards, I came over and I did my undergrad, but that was mostly just practical lessons and other small little
Yeah.
things. And then the next like big really research is doing my honors, which is currently what I'm doing. So um, yeah, so it's just only like two you can say, like the previous internship and the current honors. Yeah, so maybe not much compared to others, and I don't have any publications yet because as internships we don't really have any
Are you working
publications.
on any publications though?
Not at the moment, just doing
Okay.
my honors, and even if they were to publish it, it's probably like 3 years later or something
Yeah.
because of the timeline and
Yeah.
the project. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, so I'll let you know that first of all, publications are not required or like they only help your application. They don't like not having them won't hurt your application. Like plenty, actually a lot of people I think at my in my program at Harvard, they don't have like a ton of publications if any at all, I think going in and
yeah,
then they get them while they're in doing their PhD. Um In terms of the research experience, I barely had any. Like, I only had my one summer internship I did right before applying, but I just was so productive in those like couple of months that I was really able to talk about that. And then I bolstered that with just like other kind of like public health stuff I did that was kind of researchy, but not really, but I really made it sound researchy. And then that was
Mm,
good. So I wouldn't worry too much about the number of years as long as you can sort of talk about it
mm,
strongly. Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I don't
Do you,
know. So do you have a lot of like work experience outside of doing your undergrad and your current program?
so in terms of research, not really, it's just those, but in terms of work experience, I would say I do like tutoring and teaching and all that. But those are like, not like school kind of tutoring, but rather external. So like just going to students' home or students come to my home and do teaching in like other subjects. So not the
Nice.
undergrad level, but like high school level
That's
kind of thing.
okay.
Yeah,
That's something you can
yeah,
still talk about. I mean, yes,
yeah,
it's not the same as teaching a course at a university, of course,
yeah,
or TAing a course,
yeah.
but that's still something. Um,
Mm.
and I think it's great to like you could talk about mentoring high school. I don't know. It's great. I hearing that, I'm like, oh wow, that's wonderful. I wish I had done more of that when I was an undergrad. I'm trying to do that now,
Yeah.
obviously, with people like you.
Mm.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like it's a tough call. I tell this to people all the time too.
Yeah.
Like at the end of the day, a PhD is a PhD. It is a PhD, right? That's the degree you will get. Um, how many years is the program roughly?
Three and a half. Yeah.
Oh,
3.5 to
and can
4.
you finish it
Depends.
faster because you already are a student there? Is that the thing?
Um, so I saw the the proposal and all that sent by my postdoc, and it's actually quite a lot of stuff. So I don't think it can be done like earlier. I mean, I think 3.5 year will be counted as fast already.
No, yeah,
So
no, it is very
4 years will
fast
be,
already. No,
yeah, yeah. I think four
but
to
like, are there courses that you took in your current program that you can count towards like the courses you take for your PhD? Is that a thing for your
or
university?
no, no. So like the PhD here, how it works is you just work on that project for that. So
You
it's
don't have to
fully
take
hands-on. There's no
classes.
like there's no courses
Oh man, are you
like
sure you
no,
want to
yeah.
come
So
to the
it's
US and do your PhD? Like you have to do
I know
1 to 2 years of
it's
full coursework. They won't even care what you did before. I've had to take epidemiology like 3 or 4 times, like over and over, like to the point where I like
there's
it's
no exemptions, like no credit exemptions and all that.
no
Wow.
because
Okay.
every place I'm going, well, like we don't care how you learned it there. We want you to learn it the way we do here. And
Oh, they want to start fresh. Yeah,
yes, so
yeah,
I had to retake that course at every stage of my learning at a new university.
yeah,
So that's a great plus that you don't have to, that's something to consider too. So first off, three and
yeah,
a half years is very fast. And like
yeah,
if that's something that you want like to get through it quickly, which I personally like, I finished mine in 4 because I was like I'm ready, like I'm not taking any longer than I need to. So that's definitely a benefit that you can do it in three and a
yeah,
half, not have to do any coursework. That's
yeah,
wonderful. And then if you
yeah,
want to take courses and learn extra, I'm sure they'd let you do, like I think
yeah.
having that freedom, because like the best years of my PhD were the last 2 when I wasn't taking classes and I was just doing my research for my
Your
dissertation.
focus, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
focus
and
on
then I
what
was
you
teaching
really
and I
good.
was like
Yeah,
having so much fun. I was like, I had all this free time to like do what I wanted to, and like I could like
yeah,
manage my schedule the way. So if that's something you like, I mean, I think that
yeah.
that's great. But yeah,
I
like
have
I said,
another.
going back, PhD is a PhD. So at the end of the day, like, yes, I guess it is impressive if you get to say that you went to like X university that,
Yeah,
has some, you know, well
yeah.
known, well renowned, whatever. But at the end of the day, it's like we're all here doing research. Like,
I think it's the
yeah,
skills you
it
bring and
matters
all that
more what
also, right? Yeah,
skills you get, how product like
yeah,
like if you go to Harvard and like get a PhD there and you don't have a good experience or you
yeah,
like, don't aren't as productive or like whatnot, you
Yeah,
that,
that's the risk also because like I work in this lab, so I know what's there and where the things are and
exactly,
how
that's a
the big things work and all
huge,
that. The
that's a
people, but
huge
like if I
benefit.
were to go there, yeah, that's the thing. If I go there, it's also another risk
Yeah.
because you don't know
Do you
how
get
the
along
people
with
is.
everyone that you would work with for your
Yeah,
PhD for the most part? Oh,
yeah,
that's
yeah,
so important because like that's the other thing too. I mean, I feel very lucky. Like most of the mentors that I've had, including my advisors, like throughout all my programs, have been very supportive, have been wonderful, but that's not the case for everyone. There are people who
yeah,
have like somewhat less available advisors and they just don't get the same kind of like attention and support, or like at first they seem like it's really good, but the more they work together, you just never know what can
mm,
happen. So, and I'm saying this because like for my postdoc right now, I went back to the mentor that I did my internship with like all those years ago.
yeah,
And it's been such a wonderful transition because like she knows we know each other already. So it's like we just hit the ground running, and then
yeah,
like we're just doing, like, it's so fun to do work together. And
yeah,
like, when she gives me feedback and advice, we already know each other's style. Like there's no kind of
yeah,
like getting to know each other. Like it
yeah,
works. So I know that you're also, I want to touch on this, like a little bit hesitant because this is not exactly the research area that you want to kind of dedicate your career to, right? Like you said you
yeah,
want to do COVID research, but this
yeah,
isn't quite that. And what I
yeah.
will say is I'm more of a social and behavioral sciences person. So I don't do like, do you do like actual like wet lab research? Like it sounds like you
Yeah,
do if you're working with viruses, right? Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I
Yeah.
actually prefer the wet lab than like
Yeah.
the
So I mean,
bioinformatics and yeah,
yeah. So for me, because everything I do is like human subject, like I'm doing surveys and talking to people, like I'm not actually like collecting specimens and doing, I don't know, but my more
mm,
social behavioral research, it is, I can't say this about everything, but in my experience in this field, it is sort of easier to pivot, like because I do like adolescent substance use, right? Which is so broad. And I feel like
mm,
I can do any research that's sort of like let's say like right now I'm researching vaping, right? But
yeah,
this isn't a problem in 10 years. I could very easily pivot to like adolescent mental health and like,
yeah,
find a way.
right,
And I think that's, and even while doing my PhD, I also, like, my advisor and I didn't he didn't have like a ton of adolescent vaping projects, if any at all, that he was working on. So I did some of his work with him, but then I went to other people in the school to find that type of projects and work that were more about adolescent vaping that I wanted to
yeah,
do. So I know that's not quite the same when it comes to like wet lab bio, because like you kind of have
mm,
to be in your lab and do, it's like
yeah,
you can't be a part of like two labs and you're doing, but I think the point of me saying all this is like, I think there sometimes is a myth that you're like locked into whatever you do during your PhD for the rest of your life. But I think that like, if you are able to like pick up skills that are more kind of applicable to a bunch of different topics,
yeah,
then, I think that maybe I
yeah,
can't speak for certain, but you might be able to like in the future write a grant that maybe uses some of the skills and the methods you learned in your PhD, but then applies it to a different kind of virus or topic or whatever. Um,
yeah,
or when you do your postdoc, you find someone who is doing COVID work. So
mm,
there's always
yeah,
chances, and you should definitely keep networking. You know,
mm.
but
So yeah, I just add the video like background thing so that at least like yeah, hold on, see if I can add a
oh yeah,
filter.
no worries.
Yep, sorry. Does it play it? Yeah. All
Yeah,
right, I think that's better. Yeah. So
yeah,
in case,
it's okay.
yeah.
Yeah,
But
no
so
worries.
so that brings me to another question. So like, how do people like let's say, because I always thought that if you do your PhD in a certain area, like maybe flaviviruses or like certain very specific field, and then it's quite hard to jump over to another field, I suppose, right?
Yeah,
Because imagine if I were to do my PhD here and then if I were to suddenly like I graduated and all that and I want to go over to another university, totally new place, studying new stuff, then I'll have to relearn everything again, but they kind of expect you to know it because you are like a postdoc and it's that kind of
I
pressure. So
see.
or do I
Yeah.
work as an RA first? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm not sure how to is it really possible to really like jump over to a new field or do I have to work as an RA in a research assistant in a new lab to learn the skills before I do a postdoc or
Yeah.
so yeah.
So again, I don't do any wet lab stuff, so I can't. I
Yeah.
unfortunately don't know.
Mm,
Yeah.
mm,
For non-wet lab social behavioral sciences research, yes, the answer is you can do
yeah.
whatever. You can pivot like super easy. Um,
Oh, mm,
one of the postdocs in my current lab, I think he has more of like a like developmental psychology background and came in with like
yeah.
no adolescent vaping experience, but picked it up so quickly and now is doing that. But that was
Mm,
a requirement for him to get the postdoc. And that's usually the case across like most postdocs that I talk to is sometimes it's not exactly a perfect fit, but this is again more kind of public health, social behavioral sciences. And I
mm,
do see why, like in a wet lab, they wouldn't want to train a postdoc how to like run certain like
yeah.
experiments and
That's
stuff.
why. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
Mm,
I mean, is there any way
yeah.
that you like, is this common? Like, if let's say you accept your current PhD at your current school, like, would you be able to find like a part-time job in a different lab that is doing COVID research? Um,
Mm,
just like
I think
volunteer
it's
and do like a couple, like, is that common? I don't know. I'm just like thinking off the top of my head.
no, yeah, usually if you do the PhD at the area, you don't have much time to like, go to other places and do a part-time because they want you to focus on the project itself.
Yeah.
So, but I think the other way around probably is after you do finish your PhD, you probably work as a RA first in the labs that have the skills maybe that you want to do the project in. So like example, if the lab is you are doing is virus and the next one you're like is protein. So I guess after you finish PhD, you work as a RA in the protein lab. Is that possible? Usually, do people work as RA after PhD?
No, like you should not be RAing like as a PhD, like
Oh
a
no.
with a PhD. Like, I mean,
Oh,
again, unless you are trying to make that big of a career pivot, I just wouldn't do it for very like you want to do a postdoc. You worked hard for that PhD. Like you don't want to go back to being an RA, something that you don't need a
mm,
PhD to do.
mm,
That's what I was saying. Like during your PhD, if there's any way you can get like a part-time
mm,
RA job in a different lab to get those skills, that's what I would do. Like even
mm,
if it's like five
okay.
to 10 hours a week for 3 years, like if you do that on the side, like and you can even
Mm,
say, because you're like I never you should always get paid for the work you do, but like you could offer to, like I said, volunteer just a couple hours a week of your time to a different lab just to like learn that skill set just in case, you want to go down
mm,
that and
yeah.
do it however long you feel like you need to. That would be
Mm,
that's basically what I did, like during my program. I was just like contacting a bunch of other professors and asking if they had projects I could collaborate with them on. And
yeah.
it's easier though for me because I'm not doing wet lab work, but
Mm,
I would highly
mm,
always recommend you kind of like try to find other mentors or just network, like I said, and try to do a little bit of work because then you'll pick up different skills. And then
yeah.
I
Yeah.
know it's tough.
So
I guess like how sure are you that you want to do COVID research? Because that's like the other thing. Like if I don't want you, or like I don't, how much do you like? What's the virus name of the current place
You
that
know
you?
how we were saying in the meeting?
so currently I'm working my honors in COVID, but my
Yeah.
PhD will be on flaviviruses, like
Honey.
specifically insect specific flaviviruses.
Okay, so
So
wow, that's very
yeah,
different.
I think
yeah. So it's a
Why did
very huge difference.
Okay, why did
like
this
after digestion, you use
insect
that as a
virus
sample to
lab
purify
researcher
your
not
product.
want someone
But
who
I
did
can't
more of
do
that
it
type of work to
because
begin
I
with?
have multiple
Like, why did
types.
they pick? I mean,
Um,
you're great,
So I
obviously,
so
but
wasted 2 days.
so so actually our lab itself is specialized in flaviviruses, but then they give a little bit to COVID because you know the whole COVID
Yeah,
thing.
I've
So
heard that
like
happens a
everyone,
lot of
people are
labs.
still
Yeah.
yeah. So actually there are still many flaviviruses, and I don't mind doing flaviviruses, but like I'm more interested in like COVID, coronaviruses, and influenza because it seems like every like 8 years to 12 years there's always a pandemic, and it's like it's impactful because it affects everybody every time. So I feel like
Yeah.
um something interesting as well. Like it cannot like it always comes back. So that's why I'm interested in that. And yeah, so trying to get into it, but yeah, still finding around. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess you just want to ask yourself, like, are you okay with taking on, like, if you choose the safer route, like, are you okay, like, if you accept this current PhD offer that you already have, are
Yeah.
you okay with researching this topic that's slightly less interesting and knowing that you're going to have to make that greater effort to pivot to COVID if that is what you want to do long term? And then I guess with that, like, how sure are you that you want to do COVID forever, or long term? Um, and weigh that
Mm,
into your decision. Because if you're like, you're going to be so miserable studying this insect virus for like 3.5 years, and you're going to be really sad that you're not studying COVID stuff, then maybe it's not worth staying at this PhD, because you also need like 3.5 years is a very long time to be researching one thing. So you want to be
yeah.
passionate about it, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but so like if you're certain that COVID, it's like that's what your life's work is meant to be, and you're so passionate about that, and like you think that that's like that impact and the public health impact and your impact's going to be greater going down that route, then maybe it's worth like taking that risk and going that way so that you're not unhappy for 3.5 years studying this other thing that's way less interesting to you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, I'm just afraid like I'm not sure if I could jump fields, that's the reason. Yeah, like I scared I specialize in this and then I'm not sure if you would jump, yeah, because yours is dry lab and I'm not sure if wet lab. Like have you know of other
yeah, you
people
mean
or
like,
other
are you
postdoc or your
afraid you
friends?
won't be able to jump from insect to
Yeah,
COVID in the future?
yeah,
Yeah. Unfortunately, this is where my advice is is limited. I don't want to speak and
yeah,
for something I have no
yeah,
idea about.
yeah.
I can only say that in social behavioral sciences, dry data work, the answer is
Mm,
absolutely yes, but I know it's very
mm,
different in your world. So I would maybe do some research with that, and maybe I would even talk to some of the people in your lab. Like they might be able to
mm,
give you, like your postdoc that you've been
yeah,
mentioning. Like they might also be a really good resource to ask some of these questions. Um,
mm,
I know with me, you can ask more of the like emotional, like, okay, what do we, where can we go? But with them,
yeah, yeah,
the
it's
more like, okay,
yeah,
if I want to pivot like into
yeah,
a different topic or a different virus, like how would that look like if at all possible? So
yeah,
I would talk to the postdoc in your lab. And then
mm,
this is actually what I would recommend you do is, can your school wait at least 1 or 2 months? Like, can they hold your spot for maybe a month or two?
I'm not sure if my supervisor will do that actually. Like
Huh?
I'm not sure if my postdoc will wait so long. So the school wouldn't mind, but like the spot is vacant and people
Yeah,
can just
okay.
apply. So yeah,
How
that's the thing.
how much time do you think your postdoc will give you realistically? Like a month? Like 2 weeks?
Probably like a month from now or something. Yeah.
Okay. So I think this is what you should do. I think you should tell your postdoc about this dilemma you're having, that
Yeah.
um but don't phrase it as like, I don't want to do your research, I want to do COVID. Because if you say that, then he
No,
might be like,
yeah.
oh, this
Yeah,
person,
I know.
I would say like, I want to, before you gave me this offer, like I was also looking into some other places. Yours is still sort of my main choice. I would say that, just to, you want your postdoc to like, which you do, like none of what I'm saying is false. Like, let
Yeah.
them know that you are strongly, strongly considering this, but you also just want to check to make sure these other programs and these other possibilities, and like ask about, like, if I do this program with you, do I have to research this virus forever? Like I might have, as new diseases and viruses like come across in the future, like COVID, I might want to like look at those, like how,
Yep.
like sort of ask the question of like how married to
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
PhD are you? So figure that out within your field, and then make it sound like you're just curious, not that you're like, you have this other like hidden passion, which is okay, Then I would, as soon as possible, I know you said you were going to wait a couple of weeks, but like on September 1st, maybe September 2nd, I would just email a couple of professors in the US, including the one at Harvard, and just be like, hey, I want to talk to you. Like, do you have time in the next week? You have my blog, right? With the step-by-step instructions on how to apply. Okay, there's like an email template in there. You should definitely use that. And just be like, can you talk next week? And
I
then
actually use that for emailing the
oh,
profs.
that's great. Yay. It's a successful
And
template, I have
it
to
works.
say.
Yeah.
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 So I would immediately email some professors in the US or wherever other schools you're thinking of that are doing the COVID research you're interested in, and just try to see like if they have any, like how those conversations go. Because let's say you call this professor at Harvard and she's like, you know what, you're great, but like, I just don't know if I'm going to be able to fund you. Like, it might be really hard for you to get into this program. Then the decision is made for you, right? Like
Oh, that's true.
you know what I mean? Like you might not need to wait all the way until February to like get a little test of like what, a taste, or like just you can kind of get a feeling like, so I would talk to a couple if possible, buy yourself some time with this postdoc in your current program, see if you can push, the acceptance a couple of weeks. And in that time, try to schedule some calls with these professors that you want to work with at other schools, and see how your conversations go. Like if they see, and you can even ask them on the phone call, like, can I put you down as like my mentor in my application? Like, what do you think? Can you give me advice on like applying? Like, do you think I'm a strong applicant? Like you can ask those really direct questions to these professors that you talk to, and then see how they respond. And if they respond favorably, then, that will help. I don't know, just depending on how they respond, that might make the decision harder or much easier for you. But I'm just thinking like, that will just give you some more information so that when you do make the decision about this, current offer, you'll feel better about saying yes or no. And I'm also happy to meet with you again. Like once you have a couple phone calls and you have to make that decision, like if you just need someone to like,
I'm just afraid, right? Like
yeah,
I'm just afraid the professors accept it or they're okay with it, but like the school, because most of them don't have like any much say to it. So like even if they accept, but the school doesn't accept you, so it's
so
yeah.
yeah, that's a fair point.
So
But the thing is
yeah,
that's still the first step. Like if the advisor, if you and the
that's
advisor
true.
or the professor don't have a good conversation, then you can
That's
just
true.
cross that off your list.
That's true, yeah.
I'm not trying to say that these will help you figure out if they will take you, but then you can definitely find out if there's
Try, right?
you know what I mean? It's like crossing stuff off.
Yeah.
So that's kind of why I think like if you're able to have those conversations and you figure out, oh wow, like they're not going that well, I should definitely take this offer postdoc, then you'll feel so good about doing that. And I think that's the
I guess it's to like source out more areas just in case. Yeah. Okay. See if I have any more questions.
Yeah. I hope this is helpful.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. I know
It's
this
like
is
you never
tough.
get
I'm like
to
trying to think what I would do if I were you, and I'm like, oh
you never get to learn this. Like you have to learn this through like interacting with people because it's not taught. Like what do you do afterwards?
I
And, like,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
So so the last question is like as after you finish your PhD, usually how do you go to other areas as a postdoc? Do you like have to, is it the same thing? You have to apply and then see if they accept you and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Is it a
So
program? It's not.
postdoc is interesting. It's definitely not as like official as applying to like schools for PhDs. And
Yeah.
it's more like applying to a job. So like there'll be some schools will or labs will post like job postings that you can just like apply to online, and you submit your resume, cover letter, CV, like whatever they ask for, statements, all that.
Mm.
But there's also just people are always looking for postdocs, and if you network enough, like I would just like I was standing at a conference, like in front of my poster, and I think 3 people offered me a postdoc within the like hour that I was standing there. Uh,
Wow.
or just I would be in these like meetings with people, and they're like, yeah, like, you're graduating in 2 years, I'll be looking for a postdoc. And I'm like,
Mm.
I don't, I'm trying to go back to California. Don't try to recruit me. And this current postdoc that I found was exactly that. Like it was a former mentor. Um, we kept in touch the whole time I did my PhD. We worked on a few papers together, and then it was like, she joked the whole time that she was gonna steal me back after, and then it wasn't a joke anymore. So I did nothing. I mean, I hope no one but I didn't do anything to apply. Like, I did nothing. I didn't submit
Yeah.
a CV. I mean, I eventually submitted my CV, but like I didn't have to like fill out any application
Mm.
thing.
Mm.
It's just an agreement. Once someone kind of agrees that you're the right fit and they take
Mm.
you, then you go. It's not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like applying for a job. And so it can be done very
Yeah.
formally, or it can be done by just like this
Yeah.
formal networking. And
Mm.
that'll come as you like do your PhD and you
Yeah.
meet people, you go to conferences, you collaborate, and opportunities will just come up. I would say that like finding a postdoc is probably not as hard as the next step, which is, I mean, at least for me, finding a professor position.
Mm.
That's the hard part that I don't even want to talk about right now. But yeah, postdoc is definitely a doable, like less, I would almost say like less competitive. Like once you have your PhD, obviously, like getting a postdoc, I think is like less stressful than like you applying to PhD programs and like not knowing if you're going to get in or not. I think that's like a more stressful phase because you're still applying to school, whereas like this, you have your PhD, like the world is your oyster. That's why it kind of goes back to what I said. Like once you have a PhD, you can do that degree, like will go with you forever. You could not do
Mm.
a postdoc and choose to do something else, and you're always going to have
Mm.
your PhD. So
Mm.
like I don't know. I mean, my story is that like I never thought that I was like smart enough or good enough to get a PhD. And so when I was applying, I was like, I don't care where I go. I don't care what I study. Like I just want anyone to take me so that I
Yeah.
like get this degree that I like
Yeah.
never thought that I would go for,
Yeah.
And I mean, now I'm here, but like there really was a time when I really didn't think that I was like good enough to get a PhD. And I was like, I don't care what I study. Like, I just want those letters after my name and I'll work hard to get it. So
Yeah.
maybe that's why I'm so risk averse. And I tell people, it doesn't matter where you get in, you just, you want to go to somewhere, but you want to make sure you're not miserable for 3.5 years and like
Mm.
do all your homework and figure out like what truly is the best step. And
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah. How's
I'm
how's
just excited
America
for you
like
that you have
for
an
you?
offer. Like that to me just makes me
Yeah.
smile.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
How's just wondering, how's America for you? Like how is it like the life there, like the culture and all that?
I
Yeah.
don't know. It's definitely very different. I mean, my parents are from Taiwan, but I was born
Yeah.
here in the US, so I never like lived abroad for very long.
Mm.
So everything I know is sort of more secondhand information, but I
Yeah.
know like coming to America, like at least my cousins in Taiwan, that's always like the dream is to like study abroad and go to school. Like a lot of my cousins are like, I think doing school in like the UK or something right now, or Paris, I don't know, but America's always kind of like the dream. And I don't know. It's fun. Like, it depends on
Do
where you go in the US too. Like it's so
yeah.
different, like depending on where you go. But Boston is very cold. So I always people always know I say that about Boston, but it's fun,
I've
definitely.
considered there as well actually. Like they also one of the prof they offered as well for Boston University a PhD, but then you have to get through the school as well. So it's the same thing. Yeah.
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 No.
So just yeah. So just wondering how's like do the people over there OT a lot or is it like just based on your lab? Like how do people just go back straight at 5 and 6?
Oh, like
Like
the
how's the the working also.
so again, it's kind of different because you'd be in a wet lab, so like I think
Yeah.
you do actually have to like be in person to do your experiments. So my friends at Harvard that were in more wet lab
Yeah.
environments for their PhD, they would like go in like kind of work 9 to 5. But then
Mm.
you're also always like kind of working around, like, you might be working on papers or doing your coursework and your homework or teaching. So that
Yeah.
like bleeds out of the 9 to 5.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. I
I
guess
think
it's
what I
similar
love
here also.
about
Yeah.
being a student and also just being a researcher is like your days never really look exactly the same. It's not like you're doing 9 to 5 and you're sitting
Mm.
at the computer doing exactly the same
Yeah.
thing. You're always working on different projects, different papers. You might be teaching, you might go do something else. There's like a talk or a meeting. So your days feel like there is variety, and I like that.
Yeah.
But it's not like,
Yeah. That's why into research. Yeah. It's so
yeah.
much better. Yeah.
Yeah,
I used to do
and you get to
diagnostics. Yeah.
control your own schedule in a way,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, obviously there's certain things you have to go to at a certain time, but there is some flexibility in like you figuring out like, okay, like if you work really well early in the morning, you can just wake up really early and do a lot of work in the morning and then rest at night. Do the opposite. You have that full freedom to figure out
Yeah.
for yourself.
How long are you gonna be?
Yep. Mm.
They're all good questions.
Yeah, just thinking if I have any more questions, because it's so hard to ask like uh, like someone who finished a PhD and a postdoc and just ask like informally,
Yeah,
and not
I
care
know.
about
But
those.
just know that
Yeah.
like, you can always reach out, you can always email me, you can always
Yeah.
schedule another call. Like I'm always
Yeah.
happy, like, just we're not limited to this one Zoom. Like you
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
me as a resource moving forward. No question is ever too big or too small to ask me. I always tell people. So feel free, yeah, to always message me.
Yeah. Yeah.
Something comes up, because yeah, like you might think of something like right after we hang up, you're like, oh no, just send me an email, but
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, I'm done with the questions, but I just ask you like, how is it going for you so far?
oh, yeah, no, it's going really well. I started my postdoc in
Yeah.
um June, and it's been going really well. Like I said, my mentor and I are really pleased that there's a very smooth transition. Working on grant writing right now, which is a new skill for me, and um I'm proposing like a pretty complicated study that I'm like, oh my God, do I really want to do this? But I'm here to learn. So I guess
That's good.
so.
Yeah.
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 And yeah, just like figuring out like this new
Mm.
life. Yeah, it's been interesting. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and I don't know. I still love talking to students. I miss teaching
Mm.
a little bit.
You
But
love teaching, right? Yeah, you love teaching.
yeah,
Yeah.
I miss so hopefully I'll get to do a little bit more of that. I am mentoring an undergraduate student at Stanford right now, so
Yeah.
that's a really fun experience.
Are those tutoring like voluntarily? Like, can you volunteer to teach, or is it paid, or is it like you can't? Like,
So
how's
it's
the
volunteer, yeah. So there's a
volunteering? Yeah.
program at Stanford that they have like students who are underrepresented in
Yeah.
science, and they pair them with mentors.
One to
Um,
one. Yeah.
yeah, 1-to-1, and
Oh,
I've
okay.
been
Yeah, that's good.
mentoring her throughout the summer, and her final presentation is actually next week, so I'm so excited to go to
Yeah.
that. And So it's I don't know, it's been fun, you know. I
That's
do a
fun.
lot of
Yeah, that's fun.
great stuff, and um yeah, it's going well.
Yeah,
I do miss,
yeah. That's
sometimes I
good.
miss being a student. You know, I feel like I have to like really care. I'm like an adult now, and I have
Yeah,
to write grants
yeah,
and think about stuff, and you know,
yeah,
but
yeah,
it's going well, and
yeah.
you
That's
keep
good.
watching
That's good.
my channel, you'll see
Yeah,
what I'm up to,
yeah,
and you can also
yeah,
email me. But
yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you so
yeah,
much
no,
for
thank
taking your
you.
time.
I hope
Yeah,
this was helpful. I know that I
it
might have
is.
only added to some of the confusion, but hopefully I've given you some tips that
Yeah,
I
it's really
definitely
good.
think you should try to get some calls in. That's probably the
Yeah,
most tangible piece of advice. Talk to your postdoc,
yeah,
see if you can chat with the professor at Harvard and any other professors at other schools within kind of the timeline that you're given, and go
yeah,
from there. And like I said, once you do all that, and if you want to schedule another meeting in a couple of weeks or however before you need to make your big decision, I'm happy to do that
yeah,
too.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right. Well,
Yeah,
thank you. I'll let you go off and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for reaching out, and yeah, I'll see you on
yeah.
my channel. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.